without the Fair Media Council, Long Island would have lost a voice that there is no way, shape, or form that it can reclaim. So the Fair Media Council is our outreach to the outside world, and we thank the people from the media industry who are here today to again participate in this luncheon, because we need you and we want to believe that you need us, and it's important that we maintain this terrific partnership. I'm pleased at this point in time to ask you to rise and welcome Reverend Calvin Butts, the head of the Abyssinian Baptist Church and the president of SUNY Old Westbury for the past 10 difficult but encouraging years. Reverend Butts.
I'm happy to be here because I see so many people that I've known across the years from the city of New York, and I know a lot of people since I've been here on Long Island. In the city of New York, I'm known best for my position at the Abyssinian Baptist Church, and here on Long Island for my position as president of the State University of New York College at Old Westbury. I'm a clergyman and a college president. That's the marriage of education and faith. And when I think about the critical times in our nation today, I can say that education and faith are the Tigris and the Euphrates, twin rivers at the source of our redemption. If we don't adequately ensure the education of our young people, we will not be able to maintain our civil democracy. And if we don't, no matter where God is found, in what house, or by whatever name God may be called, if we don't ensure that there is strong faith in our nation, then we will always be susceptible to those who would destroy our democracy. So I'm happy to be here with you. And I want all of you to know, whether you're in New York City or whether you're on Long Island, that I am one who believes in the virtues of this great nation. How does it go? Oh, beautiful for patriots, dreams that sees beyond the years, alabaster cities gleam undimmed by human tears. America, America, God, mend thine every flaw and confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty and law. And then this one. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved. And I think about the young men and women who are far away from us now, fighting in very dangerous places, for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and liberty more than life. America, America, God shed God's grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Thank you all so much in the media for all that you've done, and may God bless these awards and each and every one of you in the days ahead. Amen. Thank you.
An organization such as this doesn't flourish on its own. It needs a leader, it needs a spark plug, it needs a person to make things happen. And for these past 10+ years, Jackie Clement has made it happen in so many ways. And I'm pleased to introduce our Executive Director, Jackie Clement.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you, Reverend Butts, and thank you all for being here. First of all, this event wouldn't be possible without the incredible support of everyone here. So on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Fair Media Council, thank you to our sponsors, our supporters, our members, our Folio judges, and of course, the media. Later in the program, you'll get to relive some of the most important moments in the life of Long Island over the past year. That's when the Folio Awards will be presented. The winning stories have been chosen by the public, and that feedback to the news media of what this community needs is what makes this program so special. Congratulations to the award-winning journalists here today. We thank you for putting your hearts and souls into your stories, and we want you to keep telling the tales that need to be told to keep Long Island a great place to live. And we thank you to the media on the dais and in the back of the room who bring this program to life. You see and hear them every day, but what you may not realize is that the broadcasters participating in this program today are truly the best in local news in all of the world. So please give them a round of applause. Many thanks to CBS 2's Chris Wragge and Kristine Johnson for co-hosting today's program, and to Dateline NBC's Chris Hansen for coming out today to share his world with us. We are extremely grateful. Thank you so much. Now, as you know, the Fair Media Council works year-round to bring the news media together with the public to maintain an open dialogue and build understanding. You know him best from To Catch a Predator, where his breakthrough investigative techniques, which included hidden cameras, exhaustive research, and a lot of cookies, led him to expose more than 250 men and target teenagers over the internet. But Dateline NBC's Chris Hansen has plenty more where that came from. In 2007, he reported in To Catch an ID thief, an unprecedented investigation into the billion-dollar epidemic of identity theft. The report followed the trails of an international identity theft ring, capturing for the first time on network television how the crime works. In 2006, Hansen traveled to China to report in a year-long hidden camera investigation into the counterfeit prescription drug trade. In 2004, in Cambodia, he reported on child sex trafficking, and that work included a mission to rescue some of the children. He's played a major role in Dateline's coverage of the war on terror and homeland security issues, and was responsible for much of Dateline's coverage of the September 11 terrorist attacks, with breaking investigative stories that it focused on the terrorists and operations in the Al-Qaeda network. His report on child slave labor in India's silk trade showed the link between exploitation and the fabrics found in some of the finest garments sold in the United States. That report earned him international acclaim. He's also earned 7 Emmy Awards, 4 Edward Murrow Awards, 3 Clarion Awards, the Overseas Press Club Award, the National Press Club Award, and many others. He joined NBC in May 1993 as a correspondent for Now with Tom Brokaw and Katie Couric. Please welcome Chris Hansen.
Thank you, Jackie. Can I just tell you how nice it is to walk into a room where people aren't running out the other door? I thought maybe for a minute you were expecting Conan O'Brien. A while back, Conan hosted the Emmys, and the show opens with him in a first-class cabin of an airplane. He's got a tuxedo on, and the flight attendant brings him some champagne. She says, "My, Mr. O'Brien, you look nice. What are you up to?" He said, "I'm going out to Los Angeles. I'm hosting the Emmys." And with that, the plane starts shaking violently, and he climbs into the baggage compartment, and the plane goes down, and he ends up on the set of Lost. And he's sitting there with a hairdryer he makes out of sticks, and he gets his hair all set up, and he's looking for the hatch, you know, to get out, because he's got to go host the Emmys. So he shows up on the set of 24. He falls through the ceiling of the office, and all of a sudden you see this tight shot of a screen door in a kitchen. And he comes in, and I said, "Can I help you with something?" He said, "Yes, my name is Conan O'Brien. I'm on my way to Los Angeles to host the Emmys. I'm lost." I said, "Hosting, is that what you call it?" He said, "Yeah, it's my second time." I said, "So you've done this before?" And with that, he breaks out in sweat, and the police come and arrest him, and they take him on stage at the Emmy Awards, and he starts the show. And when he first asked us to do it, you know, we wondered, gosh, are we making fun of a very serious topic? And at the end of the day, we thought, no, we're making a little fun of ourselves, and we are bringing attention to a very serious topic, so we ended up doing it. Interestingly, the very first To Catch a Predator was done here in Long Island, in Bethpage. And that very first one, we didn't have all the systems down that we ultimately developed. We had security, we had the online decoys were working, we had hidden cameras, and we had all set up. And I was driving from my home in Connecticut to the location. I'm stuck in traffic on the Throgs Neck Bridge, and I start to think to myself, you know, what if nobody shows up? You know, what if I've just wasted tens of thousands of dollars of NBC's money? And with that, my producer, Lynn Keller, picks up the phone and says, "Where the heck are you? 2 guys are supposed to show up in 45 minutes. So we get there, and you know, I'm a little nervous, because I'm not sure, you know, who these guys are, and they're going to come in here, and I've got the transcript, and I'm going to confront them. So the first guy comes in, and It goes all right. I'm just trying to keep my, heart out of my throat. And second guy comes in, and the third guy comes in, and I grab the transcript, and I go, look, it says right here that you wanted to do this, that, and the other thing to a 12-year-old girl named Sally. He goes, no, it's not me. I said, excuse me. And I go back and grab another transcript. A 14-year-old named Julie. No, it's not me. I said, excuse me. A 13-year-old named Beth. Yes, that's me. Okay, good. We can get on that. Well, in 2.5 days, 17 guys showed up, including a New York City firefighter. And we broadcast the show, and it got a fair amount of attention. I started to think, well, perhaps we should do this again, in another part of the country. So we went to Washington, outside of Washington, D.C., and Virginia to set up, and we had more cameras and smarter security and better systems to keep the transcripts in place. And it's noon on a Wednesday, and the first guy through the door is a rabbi, a clergyman. And he comes in like he owns the place with a bounce in his step, going to meet somebody who he thinks is a 13-year-old boy. And so we confront him, and he leaves. And I said to myself, boy, if the first guy in the door is a rabbi, I can't imagine what is going to happen next. Well, before you know it, there was a teacher, there was an emergency room doctor, and a guy who showed up naked. Now, at no time at Michigan State University in any journalism class was I prepared for this. Fortunately, we had some inkling beforehand, and the producers had actually put a towel up on top of the refrigerator so I could actually give him something, and did the interview. And he leaves, and the next day I hear all this commotion up in the room where the computer decoys are. And I run up there, I said, what's going on? He said, remember that guy who came in last night, John Kennelly, the naked guy? I said, it's hard to forget. He said, well, that same guy is in another chat room trying to set up a date with another decoy, another 13-year-old boy. I said, come on, that's impossible. Who would put themselves through that again? Just the sheer embarrassment of it. So sure enough, it's him. We set up a meeting at a McDonald's. We show up with 2 camera crews. He pulls up in his red pickup truck. He goes in, we move up, and as I'm walking up, I realize that I've kind of got one shot to ask this guy a question. So I better, figure out exactly what it's going to be. And I ultimately asked him the only thing I could come up with, which was, I've been doing this for 27 years, and I just don't know what to ask you first. He said, well, I'm going through therapy. I said, John, it's not working. I've got news for him. So by the end of that investigation, we had 24 people show up, all walks of life. But it became apparent that if we were going to do it again, we needed to change the way we did it a little bit because, these guys were just leaving, walking away. And while in that Virginia case, several were prosecuted afterwards, we knew that we'd have to change things up a little bit. And it was right then that we got a call from the Riverside County, California Sheriff's Department asking if we'd be willing to talk about doing a parallel investigation. And that's difficult in media and law enforcement because we don't want to be seen as working too close to law enforcement. Law enforcement doesn't want to be seen as being a tool of the media. But the lawyers got together and we were able to fashion out a way to actually do this where we would get the transcripts, they would get a copy of the transcripts, they could review them, the detectives and the prosecutors could review them. We could make our decision, the guy would come in, I'd ask him the questions, we'd talk, he would leave, they would initiate their investigation and make the arrest. And so I'm still sort of thinking, this is the 3rd time we're doing this, And what if nobody shows up? What if I come back to New York with nothing but, video of me taking a nap on the kitchen counter like the Maytag repairman? Well, 51 guys showed up in 3 days. And again, we had a teacher, we had a Homeland Security agent, we had an actor, business owners, and repeat offenders. It was just stunning, just the volume. It was hard to keep up with. And again, each time we go out, or we've gone out, I keep thinking that nobody's going to show up. Well, it got to the point where in New Jersey, I believe in our 11th investigation, we had people showing up who sort of almost knew what they were walking into. I had a guy come in and he put his marijuana out on the counter and he's talking to the on-site decoy. And it comes time for me to walk out. Before I can say a word, he says, oh, you're Chris Hansen. I said, how did you know that? He said, I never miss an episode. I download them off the internet. And before I can, get the next line out, he says, oh, and I heard you on Opie and Anthony talking about your book. You can be pretty funny when you want to be. I said, do you even get the, trouble you've gotten into? And so what it says to me is a couple of things. One, no matter how many times we do it or police do stings, these guys are out there. And so, the best way to protect your kids, all of our kids, is to educate them to be safe online because these guys are not going away whether we do, 30 hours of television or 300 hours of television. Some 300 men have walked into these investigations. 250 are being prosecuted or have been prosecuted. Of that, each time there's been a guilty plea, a no contest plea, or conviction by a judge or jury. The sentences have ranged from 24 years on the high end to probation and registration as a sex offender on the low end. So I think we made a real impact here when it comes to this sort of problem. And what thank you. What I'm proud about most, though, I think, is that we raised awareness and we created a dialogue that didn't exist before. And whether it's this story or any of the other ones that we're working on now or will do in the future, I mean, that's kind of the goal here. It's interesting because when I speak at colleges, the kids are all in to catch a predator. And you made it big when, there's a drinking game in college where every time I come out and say, I'm Chris Hansen, the kids take a sip of beer. And I'm not sure I'm proud of that, but I'm told that happens, especially as I get ready to send my own oldest son off to college. But the neat thing about the college kids, though, is that while they may have started watching To Catch a Predator just because it's dramatic, they have followed us into all these other topics. For instance, identity theft, which we did a while back, where we actually infiltrated a website, a chat room that was like a thieves market for stolen credit card and identity information. And we actually got our parent company, GE, to give us some credit cards. And we would go into this chat room with experts and say, we have a live credit card that we'd like to trade for a drop location. Because we wanted to see how this world of identity thieves and credit card thieves worked. And basically what they do is they steal your identity and your financial information. They charge things, electronics, all kinds of items. They ship it to a third-party drop site, and then they have that person ship it overseas, and they sell it either in Europe or in West Africa. At least this gang was doing that. So we get in there, and we're looking for a drop site. Well, I put this credit card number in, and I've got GE security on the other line, and within 14 seconds, I've got a stopwatch. They're using this credit card, this credit card number, in Chile, in Colorado, all over the country. And so we follow this, and it's really stunning to me how quickly this happened. And we get this drop site, and we set up Hansen Discount Electronics. And we put the word out there on the internet that we're kind of sloppy. We don't keep track of whether or not the address on the credit card matches the shipping address. Then we set up CH Delivery, which had the logo, "You're positively, absolutely gonna get it." And we let people order this stuff online. And so we go out and we bought Xbox 360s and all this stuff, and we keep delivering to this one location in Penn Yan, New York. And I get to a guy named Jeff Ball. And his wife is always the one that is delivering these things, or taking delivery of these things. And so she's not really giving up much information. I'm like, well, who's this woman, Wendy Kenson, these things are addressed to? She goes, I don't know, she's a friend of my husband. So finally we get there one day when only the husband's home. And I start chatting with him, and of course it's all on hidden camera. And it becomes clear that he's an unwitting dupe in this thing. But I said, well, who's this Wendy Kenson? And he says, well, it's my fiance. So your fiance? I said, your wife doesn't seem to know about that. And he goes, oh yeah, she's got an electronics business, and this stuff gets shipped to me, and I ship it to her over in Africa and Europe. I said, oh, interesting. So he's going to try and find out who this person really is. So we call him into the CH delivery office, which we have, hidden cameras all around, because we tell him there's so many packages, he's got to come get them. And I don't have a disguise on. I'm just wearing a fleece and a Detroit Tigers ball cap. And I start to ask him about how he got to know this Wendy Kenson. And he said, well, I met her in a chat room on the internet. I said, oh, really? That's interesting. He goes, but you got to be careful on the internet in those chat rooms. I said, why? He says, because if you talk to the really young girls, you could get caught by that show Dateline NBC. And this is the intersection of To Catch a Predator and To Catch an ID Thief, right here, right at this moment. And he says, have you ever seen that show? I said, well, yes, I have. I said, did you see the one where the naked guy walked in? He goes, oh, man, I couldn't believe it. He said, did you see the last week when the doctor came in Petaluma, California? I said, yeah. And I was about to say, boy, that Chris Hansen's a good-looking, smart guy, isn't he? And I thought that might have been pushing it. And, guys in the control room are just trying to keep the laughter to a minimum. And so ultimately, he comes back, and we break the news to him, and that he's been taken, and the poor guy was out about $40,000. And we said, we can't guarantee we're going to get the money back, but we're going to try at least hold these guys accountable. And so we tracked them all the way into Europe and ultimately to West Africa, where they were going to the country of Benin, which is lower profile than Nigeria, because the heat's kind of on in Nigeria now. And so they had ship it to Benin, put the electronics in cars that they would then ship into Nigeria and sell the cars and the electronics there. But, you know, it's the kind of example of how we try to take the viewer on a journey of discovery. We're doing it again coming up on this Sunday night. All the other online scammers that we've chased have been international, and what we've learned now is that a lot of these guys have come to the United States and are actually operating here. And what we did was find a victim who lost her life savings of some $200,000, and we took over her identity and actually set up a meeting in a sting operation that took place in South Carolina where we put the victim face to face with one of the scam artists. And we confront him, and it's pretty compelling just to see how all this works in real time. Another interesting story, and when Jackie was talking about the, you know, the image of cities, we recently did an hour program on Detroit, and you know what's going on there. There's been crime problem, the economic woes are terrible. We just finished up an administration where corruption ran rampant. And I'm from there, so I wanted to tell a very personal story. I mean, I interviewed everybody from my mom to the mayor to Kid Rock, who's a big Detroit booster. And we spent 10 months, you know, researching the story, reporting the story. And what we ultimately decided to do was, as tough as things are, and when you look from the air, you see all the abandoned buildings and vacant homes. I mean, there's enough vacant and abandoned property in Detroit to add up to the size of the city of Buffalo, 40 square miles. But what we decided to do was tell the story of Detroit through the people who are actually fighting to turn it around on the front lines. We interviewed a woman named Cordette Grantling who makes about $228 every 2 weeks, who takes in abandoned children, raises them, educates them, makes sure they go to church. We interviewed a self-made millionaire mayor, Dave Bing, who doesn't need this job, you know, and he continues to push through and try to get these radical plans done. The police chief, who also doesn't need to be working, who goes out on the streets two nights a week to actually make arrests and pick up guns. And the people from the suburbs are getting high school kids together to go tutor these inner city kids, you know. Those are the ways that we try to tell stories. You know, yeah, it's tough there, yeah, it's negative, but the stories of inspiration there will hopefully start to see things, you know, turn around. And it was a very impactful story. And there were some people who were not happy about, you know, seeing Detroit's dirty laundry air, but the vast majority of the people got it. And the people who are in the story not only were inspiring, but they have inspired others to step up to the plate, to do more for that city and that region, to do more for the people we identify in the story. And that is, you know, when you talk about image, you know, you can go do a survey piece and beat up a town, or you can go do something that's going to make a difference. And I think in that case, we did make a difference. You know, this kind of reporting, and you guys know it, it takes a lot of time. It's expensive. It's sometimes dangerous, but it's important to do. And I think, you know, with the support of an organization like this, us keeping on our bosses to say, let's keep doing this sort of thing. We can find ways to maybe do it for a little less money, but it's important to do. I think we all work together. We can continue to do this very important work. And I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you having me here today, and please continue the great work you've done. Thank you very much.
The Fair Media Council Board of Directors, members and community, thanks Chris Hansen, Dateline NBC, for dedicating his career to serving the public by telling stories that need to be told, and bringing attention to the important role of news in society by keynoting FMC's Folio Awards ceremony and marking April 30th, 2010 as a day of celebration on Long Island. So we thank you for that.
Thank you very much.